Welcome back to Tech from the Trenches with Mike Harvey. I'm Mike Harvey. This week's episode I'm very passionate about. I'm going to talk about a subject that many of you might consider controversial, and that subject is the use of email in our business processes. Something I see every day, drives me crazy. AKA, why email is a dead man walking. Please press the subscribe button below, follow us, and tell your friends to tune in. Before we get into it, I want to qualify what I'm going to say. My opinions and strategies regarding email are based on more than 25 years personal experience building, managing, and integrating global email systems. What I'm going to discuss here today has nothing to do with anyone else's public or private opinions and is solely my own positions on the subject based on that experience. So, what are we talking about? Is not the features frequently bundled with email from a client perspective, such as contact management, calendaring, tasks, and other collaboration tools that we use every day. Some of these features use email as a transport to exchange information, but that's also changing with the improvements in dedicated services such as web-based calendaring, Calendly if you're familiar with it, real-time chat such as Teams and Slack, directory services for contact management, LDAP, Active Directory, and so on, and project management systems, Monday, Jira, Smartsheet, and so on for task management. But let's talk about the history of email and how we got here. Email, which runs primarily on the SMTP protocol, was introduced in 1982. One of the oldest user-accessible services on the internet, invented during what is widely referred to as the digital age of innocence. Email is predated only by DNS, domain name system, which is the global phone book of domains, .com, .org, you get the drift on the internet. And that is the primary service email depends on. Since its inception, email has been the staple for interpersonal communications and is so ubiquitous and easy to get nearly everyone on the planet. And it's for this reason that email has become the de facto channel for communication over the past 40 years. Not just for person-to-person communication, but also for processes that are the lifeblood of your business. So that's where we came from. Let's talk about the current state. The exploitation of email by marketers and evildoers in general has eroded the real value of email. While there is no arguing about the ease of use of email, its value is dubious today at best in terms of reliably delivering information. And there are several factors that contribute to this, including the proliferation of free mail services such as Gmail, Hotmail, ProtonMail, etc., email marketing, and the exploitation of email account information for marketing purposes, and viruses, exploitations, human-engineered vulnerabilities including phishing, swishing, whaling, and more. Most importantly, email is often assumed to be a static representation of your digital identity. This is very far from a reliable assumption, as people change names and jobs and email addresses that we use come and go. Your email address is not you. The cumulative effect of these factors has resulted in a gross misuse and exploitation of email over the past 2 or 3 decades, if you want to go back to the deck guy in 1992, to the point where emails become less than dependable as a user communication service and should be avoided entirely as a reliable process interface. Underline, underline, underline. Now, Mike's crystal ball. If we fast forward 10 years, email will be struggling to maintain any relevance in the metaverse. Whole different episode. The metaverse will fundamentally change the way we interact with systems and each other. Keys to this as it relates to email are that your identity will be a comprehensive profile of all the digital representations of and references to you. Email addresses, usernames, avatars, preferences, and also the digital assets you have. Digital currencies, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, and so on. The way we interact with information and systems will not be tethered to a computer or a mobile device via a classic user interface, but will be imposed and interspersed into normal human interfaces, aka our senses. Think alternate reality, augmented reality. All of this sounds very sci-fi and scary, but make no mistake, billions are being invested today in the metaverse as we speak, and it's coming for better or worse, further relegating email to the annals of history, akin to the 8-track tape cassette, VCR, and fax in the next 10 years. The key reasons email is a dead man walking. There's 3 key reasons. 1, email increases the threat surface for cybersecurity. Period. There is no guaranteed delivery. Period. The sheer volume of email makes focusing on meaningful information laborious, and that's being kind. So, where and how to effectively use email. The effective use of email today, email should be used for the express purpose of communicating information between users where there is no risk to information exposure, no expectation of timeliness, and no more secure or reliable method of communication exists. Period. Email should never be used for data transactional purposes where guaranteed delivery and security are expected. End quote. This does not only apply to small business, but to all organizations that care at all about the reliability and security of their information. So now that we've covered the principles and where email is especially a bad idea, what does this mean for our business? Does it mean we shouldn't use email at all? If we do use email, how should we use it and how should we not? Let's talk about some examples and use cases and definite don'ts for using email. Let's talk about the good. Number 1, low risk, asynchronous user communication. Communication between 2 or more users where the content of the communication is a low risk if exposed. There is no better method of communication. The content also complies with your email use policy. Examples. Communication with external entities such as partners, clients, and vendors for the purposes of introduction, meeting coordination, and invitation. This is a very common use. Another use case, periodic broadcast communication. Communication to a targeted audience of users such as email marketing. Boo, I know, but it's still useful. Speaks for itself. Customer updates and events, open enrollment, deadlines, etc., and corporate communications, internal, formal communications that we need to retain. So those are the good use cases. Now let's talk about the cautionary use cases for email. The think before you do category. Procedural process notifications. First use case. Task assignments, notifications from a system where there's no other more secure notification mechanism available, such as web app and mobile app notification. Status updates, support incident updates, assignment status that do not contain sensitive information, typically to customers and partners. And sensitive documents, document signing, execution, financial information, tax docs, healthcare information, excluding information that falls under regulatory restrictions. HIPAA, SEC, BSA. Those are the think before you send email category examples. So now let's talk about the last category, the avoid at all costs, never do use cases for email. Number 1, data transfer, exchange of information from one system that is destined for another. Very common use case I see all the time. Website to CRM data. Why is that bad? It's prone to error, non-delivery, and high human effort to process. Financial transaction data, another one I see too much. Credit card processing, PCI compliance type stuff, no. EFT banking information, no. EFTA, right? So high risk information, delivery of information that is classified, confidential, or highly sensitive. Examples of high risk information include financial records. As I said, don't send these. Banking credit card statements, tax documents, healthcare records, patient's history, test results, etc. Intellectual property, patent, copyright, trademark, etc. And the piece de resistance, the never, ever, I see it too much, it makes my head explode, authentication data, usernames, passwords, keys, etc. Don't ever send that stuff in email. Find another way. Call them up. Spell it out. Don't email. All right. So what are the key takeaways here? I know it's been a long topic. I have a blog article. I'll be linking below so you can go reference that or watch this thing over and over again. There's a lot of meat here, I know. Key takeaways are, unless you are using end-to-end encrypted email, and most people don't because it's difficult for casual users to manage, it's safest to assume that your email is not private, right? It's especially true for free mail applications, right? They're giving you the email because they want to own your data. Zoom, Google, Apple, NSA, they're all looking at your email. Just assume that. Takeaway 1. 2, make sure you have clear email use, retention, and information classification policies and enforce them. Underline. You need policies and you need to enforce them. If you're not sure if your email practices are vulnerable, ask someone who knows. Better to be safe than sorry, because if your intellectual property is exposed, you're eligible for, right? Malware is a big deal right now. Email is the primary way people are getting your stuff. Anyway, those are the key takeaways. That's all for this episode. Again, we encourage your feedback and dialogue to help make this channel valuable for you. Please press the subscribe button below. Follow us so you don't miss an episode. See you all next time on Tech from the Trenches with Mike Harvey.